Hello there, my name is Jordan Matin with the Matin Real Estate Group, and first of all I want to thank you so much for listing your home with us. I wanted to go over what some of the next steps in the process are, and one of the big pieces is title, and I have with us our escrow officer, our preferred escrow officer, Kimberly. Kimberly, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome, Jordan.
So I'm going to go over some of the basic questions that people have, how the process works, so people are prepared, they know who you are, know all the pieces work together, because it can be a little confusing, you know?
That's true.
Right? So you have a real estate broker, you have a title, you have a lender with the mortgage, you have all these other appraisers, inspectors, all these different pieces of the pie. Where does title fit into that? How does that work?
Well, as a title and escrow company, we are the neutral depository for money and documents. And so once an offer is accepted, we open our escrow and run a title search. And so we come in at the very beginning of the accepted offer, and then we see everyone through the entire process, through the closing and signing of the documents and the disbursement of the money at the end.
Okay, great. So that is a lot of different things. How does that play into working with the real estate brokers? I mean, people are registering on the site, we contact them, we show them houses, they write up offers, and then it goes to title. I mean, how does that work with the sales agreement? How do you guys, can you break that down into layman's terms for me?
Absolutely, yes. So upon receipt of a signed contract, we open up an escrow and start our title report process. In that process, we will be running data pertaining to the seller, pertaining to the property, and providing a report based on the contents of the property. Meaning, are there mortgages existing that show as liens? Are there easements? Things pertaining to the legal description and how the house is situated on the property. And then we receive money in our file, earnest money at the beginning.
Yeah.
We hold that as a neutral source. We hold and deposit that money to be used on behalf of the buyer when we get to closing. And then we work with the seller to clear up any issues that may be on title so that they can comply with the part of the contract that says they will warrant and defend the property against defect. So in your purchase agreement that you're writing with your folks, there's the section that says the seller will warrant and defend any defects and provide title insurance. So my company fulfills that part of the obligation.
Okay, yeah. So you guys are making sure that it's a clean title. So when the buyers purchase the home, there isn't like a roofer coming back and saying, hey, the last owner, didn't pay me and you owe me for that roof.
Precisely.
Or
mortgages.
Or like the city comes and says the property lines aren't right. It really makes sure that the title is intact and what you're purchasing is what you're purchasing, and there isn't any other features to that, which is really a good deal. Very important. She did talk about earnest money, and I did want to talk about earnest money really briefly. And people think, oh, there's a down payment, and they have to just come up with a down payment up front or at the end. And actually what happens is earnest money comes in, and when you offer on a property, you bring a little bit of money up front, usually about 1% of what the home is worth, and then you bring the remainder at closing to make up the down payment altogether. And this kind of puts a little bit of skin in the game so that the seller knows that you're serious with purchasing. And when that money comes, it goes directly to the title officer and into some sort of secured third-party bank that I don't have access to, and the seller's the other party doesn't have access to it as well. So who pays for all this, right? I mean, how does it work? Who pays you? How do you get paid?
So title insurance, the owner's title insurance is paid for by the seller, and then the lender's title insurance, if there's a loan involved, is paid for by the buyer. Of course, all fees can be negotiated in contract, but if we're falling back on the standard rules, the seller pays for the owner's premium, and then the buyer pays for the lender's premium. And escrow fee is split 50-50.
Okay. And so, in my experience, I've noticed that a house around $300,000, give or take, the escrow 50 is usually about $2,000 per side. I mean, it changes pretty dramatically, but that's pretty standard, give or take.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so that makes sense. Now, let me ask you, how could people contact you directly to ask questions about what's happening in the process?
Well, when you open escrow, we send out communication right at the very beginning that has all of our contact information, and we're also listed on the preliminary title report. And so if any questions come up related to the actual report, then we accept calls during our business hours.
Okay, cool. And then of course, I always go to you to do all the signings, right? So when we go to closing, right, when you write up an offer is a sales agreement, and a sales agreement is the instructions that the title and the escrow officer uses to follow the instructions to make the closing happen. And at the very end, we come and we sign at your office.
Yeah, so at the end, usually a few days before closing if you're a buyer, and a week or so prior to closing if you're a seller, we'll get you in to come and sign our final papers, and that represents all the terms of the contract and has essentially the checkbook for the transaction. So all of the money that happens, things that you're paying for, money you're receiving, any particular party will have the credits and debits, and then we outline all of that and have everyone sign. We're all notaries that work for title companies, so you come and sign in front of a notary, we notarize the documents, and then we can proceed to closing according to the contract.
And a question that I normally get is, what if I'm buying a house and I live in California, or some deals I've had people in Tokyo or in Australia that are purchasing or selling properties. How does that work?
Yeah, so we have access to notaries around the country. So anyone inside the United States, we can arrange for notary directly at the location of their choosing. When it becomes an international process, there are notarial practices related to the Hague Convention that would require an individual party to go to a U.S. embassy. And we can certainly work out specific information and arrangements with the needs of your Tokyo folks or whomever.
And we've done that. We've had people go to embassies. I know that we've also had if someone's really sick and they can't get to a local, I've had when the title person will actually go to, say, a hospital or their own home in unique situations, which is really a phenomenal resource to be able to have if you need it. And I got one more question, because I've always struggled with the idea of there's title and then there's escrow, right? So what's the difference?
Yeah, that's a good question, Jordan.
Yeah.
All right, so the title is a research of the property. It's going to show liens, encumbrances, anything to do with judgments. And escrow is the handle of the money. So I'm an escrow officer, and we're a neutral depository for money and documents. And it just happens that our company does both things, title and escrow. In some states around the nation, they're handled completely separately.
I didn't know
if you
that.
have folks moving from other parts of the country, they may have a title company and then they may have an attorney or an escrow officer that wouldn't be related. Here in our state, in Oregon, it's customary practice that we would be involved in the same office in the same company, and we handle both aspects. But there's the escrow piece, which is the money, and then the title piece, which is the actual composition of the title itself.
Okay. Well, that's really cool. Well, I just wanted to take a moment and say thank you so much for coming up. I really appreciate you taking the opportunity and taking the time. If you have any more questions for myself or for Kimberly, go ahead and shoot me an email, shoot me a text, give me a call. We're totally available to answer any and all your questions. And thank you again for visiting the Matin Real Estate Group blog.